to this next question.
No, I mean, I cut my teeth interviewing people when I was at NPR, but I've learned so much since then, and I think that even with hard news, as long as you're really paying attention, you can uncover things that you didn't even know to ask. Right? That's the
right.
idea.
I always find, and has nothing to do with vacuuming, that I always found that I would go like to interview bands. At first, I used to write down questions and stuff and take that, and they were the worst interviews I ever did. And then I would go to sound checks, and I would watch a band at a sound check, and I'd find something that would happen in that sound check, like the guy saying, "Oh, this guitar has just had it," or he'd be a musician might be fussing with something in particular, or be excited about something, and just have one nugget of a starting point, like just garner something that's a nugget of a starting point. And once I have my starting point, I know everything's going to be okay. But where do you start is always like if you're going in blindly to an interview, how do you start? Usually it's someone maybe you really admire and stuff, and you don't want to say, "Oh wow, I really admire your work," because that'll be the 400,000th time someone's told that person that, and it's not going to be engaging to them. Yeah. So what is it that you do that is engaging, that's going to draw something out of them? You say, "God, you're really struggling with that guitar. How long have you had that?"
Yeah.
And right away you've got your interview's begun.
And they're going to say, you're going to listen to them, they're going to say something that's going to make you think of something else. "Oh, you got that at such and such from such," or they're going to tell you the story of how they got the guitar, and then that's going to lead you to something, and then eventually you get to whatever album they're on.
And then all of a sudden you say thank you when it's over, and they didn't even realize the interview started. It's like they've had a conversation instead of an interview, which is the other thing that I distinguish. I'd like to call these conversations and not interviews.
Yeah. I just think Bob, and I'm telling this to Will with Bob in the room, but I have just learned so much from watching Bob do interviews. I think he's one of the best interviewers I've ever been had the pleasure of working with or being around, and it's all because Bob, that you just listen and have a real conversation, and the people you interview can tell that you actually care about what it is that So many other a lot of hosts of shows. And I don't just mean NPR, but just hosts of lots of shows, TV shows. You can tell they don't really know what it is that this person they're interviewing, or they haven't really listened to the music or care that much. They're just going through the questions that somebody prepared for them, and it's very disingenuous. And the artists know that when they're being interviewed, and they just go through the routine with them. Yeah. And there have been, can I mention Thom Yorke?
Sure.
So Thom Yorke walked out of an interview that we had set up.
Not with us.
Not with all songs. Thom Yorke had an interview with an NPR host. The NPR host asked one question, and after that very first question, Thom Yorke said, "Okay, just a second," got up and left and never came back.
Holy shit.
Sometime after that, Thom Yorke had an interview with Bob that was turned into a guest DJ session, and Thom Yorke loved it so much that sometime after that, it was months after it, Radiohead came to play outside of D.C. and he asked.
Oh, was it the Santa Barbara? Was it D.C.?
I thought it was D.C. where they was it the Santa Barbara show?
The Santa Barbara show, yeah.
Asked I got to meet Bob Boilen. It was either after the show or beginning of the show or something like that. And it was because he remembered that interview, and it meant so much to him to have a real human being on the other end of the interview. And I just think that's amazing, and that's so important. There's such a huge lesson there for anyone wanting to do interviews.
Totally. Well, I edited that Yonsei guest DJ, and I remember how ecstatic he was to talk about all these kind of weird things from his childhood, and the Iron Maiden and
the Iron Maiden. Yes, I love that story.
It was like he was so surprised that he was being asked the questions he was